So, lads, it appears the biggest story in basketball is from like 2013. It is something that has been going on for a couple of years, and it's just about Jason Kidd and his methods of coaching. And all I gotta say is that this situation is actually turning out to be hilarious. Like, in the grand scheme of things, this is turning out to be hilarious. Like, this is all kind of coming out over Twitter, which is simultaneously, depending on the time, it is simultaneously the funniest social media app to be on, as well as the worst social media app to be on. Like, that's the thing with Twitter, is that I'm as big of a victim as anyone else. It makes people think that what they say matters in the grand scheme of things. And I'm as bad for that as anybody. If you guys have ever seen me on Twitter, I'm as bad for that as anybody. But yeah, it is just, it's the most toxic app and the funniest app at times. Especially because it's the only app where things like what you're going to see are going to go viral. So, obviously, you can see here, the NBA world reacts to viral Jason Kidd story. So it is this entire story right here. I like Luka, do not like Jason Kidd, want the bets for Luka, tough to root for the Mavs. So glad the Blazers didn't hire Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd thing is really sad and awful. Feel bad for Larry Sanders and the Bucks team. And now we are going to go over what that is. So, it says here, biggest takeaway is Jason Kidd should not be allowed to be around other people, let alone coach an NBA team. Worst story is sponsored team's lost the day before Christmas Eve. Okay, so let's get rid of my face here. So the Bucks were struggling, dropping a game to Charlotte, whatever, the day before Christmas Eve. Do you think that was a winnable game? Yes, a winnable game. Do you think we deserve the next 2 days off? Basically threatening to ruin Christmas. And basically what ended up happening was he told them to come back in on Christmas Eve and just made them run. And yeah, so he went at Larry Sanders very, very hard. And in the end, that was in fact the last time Larry Sanders played an NBA game for the Bucks. He did come back 2017. I don't really get this part right here. Half the team didn't know how to swim, but he made everyone run the pool. Like, if the pool is shallow, I don't really see a problem with this specific part. I don't get why this line was thrown in. But it says everyone's so tired and nobody was thinking about Christmas, didn't even have energy left to open gifts. Like, all I'm getting from this is that Jason Kidd is just an asshole. Like, that's all I'm reading this entire story, and like, there have been a lot of coaches that have done a lot worse than this, especially in this part of the world. Like, some of the stuff, like some of the coaches in Eastern Europe, this is tame. This is tame compared to a lot of coaches in that area of the world. But Jason Kidd is just, as I said, I don't want to keep repeating that word because I think I can probably say it once without getting demonetized. But yeah, that's Jason Kidd. And everyone's known that about Jason Kidd. Jason Kidd's not a nice person. And then looking at this one here. Do they have the Thon Maker situation? This has been proven to be false. 2 seasons later, when Thon Maker didn't have an iPhone, messing up the Blue Bubble iPhone group chat. Therefore, he once showed up late to a practice because he missed a text about a time change. He made the team run because Maker not getting an iPhone was an example of a team not being unified. That's just not true. That's just not true. And this doesn't make sense either. This does not make sense either. Like, some more comments from former colleagues on and off the record about Jason Kidd. And like, I've heard that this is this whole negative thing. It says Jason's a brilliant mind. He makes you kind of uncomfortable. When players are going through it, it's uncomfortable. He's playing mind games with them. He doesn't want to sound negative. Some of Kidd's methods, such as how he would embarrass cover making everyone but them. He had his own way of getting a point across. Like, Jason Kidd is very much a, like, coach that would have gotten away with these methods in the 90s. Like, you can't do this stuff anymore. And I think I kind of agree that maybe his spot coaching in the NBA, he does not have a spot coaching in the NBA right now, because a lot of people aren't like wired this way. But I mean, his method, there are crazier methods than this. There really are. But this is the best story of them all, by the way. This is the best story of them all. So others felt like the whole season was starting to unravel. It's not that I don't enjoy water parks, Zeller says, but when someone is screaming at you to be his human inner tube for every ride in the park, you start to wonder what it has to do with basketball. Another player who wishes to remain anonymous reported that Kidd had an unhealthy obsession with water parks and would eat lunch at Pelican Cove Water Park 4 days a week. We all thought it was because of the single moms, but I think he just really likes water park. Guard Chris Middleton says, one time in a game against Chicago, we were down 2 with a minute left and he calls a timeout. He starts drawing on the whiteboard and we all think he's going to give us an inbounds play. But he turns the whiteboard around and says, wouldn't this be a great water slide? My friends in New York all laughed at me when I showed it to them, but I made some tweaks to the exit so that you land in a hot tub instead of a pool, which makes it so much awesomer. Brandon Jennings looked at me, back at Coach Kidd, and said, Coach, it's just a bunch of squiggly lines. We can't really tell what's going on. And then Coach started crying, said it was just sweat, even though we all knew he was definitely crying. So I want you guys to let me know, what part of this story did you realize that it was completely fake? What part of the story did you realize it was completely fake? Like, I think that misspelling Chris Middleton has to be up there. That has to be up there. Also, the fact that one thing that I was like, this is definitely fake, was that I didn't think that Brandon Jennings played for the Milwaukee Bucks with Kidd there, but apparently he did. And yeah, I kind of realized when he said human inner tube for every ride in the park. I think that was kind of the point. But like, the fact is that this has gone viral. This has gone viral because so many crazy stories about Jason Kidd have come out. That shout out to Mo, by the way. So many crazy stories that people have actually started believing this, which is kind of crazy. But one thing about the whole Milwaukee Bucks situation, so not the whole Milwaukee Bucks, but the whole Thon Maker situation with his iPhone, is that Thon Maker has come out and said that he has always had an iPhone and that someone on the team did have an Android, but we didn't have to run because of it. Which means that it's probably a case that they may not have had to run, but somebody in the group had an Android and it annoyed Jason Kidd. That is likely what is the case. I'm pretty sure that's what Thon Maker... The fact that he specifically remembered that one person had an Android means there's definitely something up with that. But then we've got Jared Dudley, who has come out and publicly defended Jason Kidd. And also, like, Jason Kidd's methods worked with Giannis. Like, Jason Kidd was a great coach in Milwaukee. The man single-handedly changed the culture. One of the biggest turnarounds from one year to next in NBA history. Personally saw waiting for Milton and Giannis. He laid the foundation for them winning the chip this year. So, it's clear with Jason Kidd, his methods are not for everybody. And that's the thing with a lot of these kind of like almost old school mentality coaches. I'm not sure what place they have in the NBA. But again, I've played for coaches like that. And the thing is that the biggest thing with a coach, I believe, is getting the best out of all your players. Jason Kidd seems to be a coach that can get the best out of a specific type of player. He's the best. He can get the best out of a Giannis type player. But any player that doesn't have that kind of mentality is going to struggle. Just like when we see with the whole Kwame Brown situation. Had Kwame Brown gone anywhere but to it Michael Jordan, he might have ended up being a decent NBA player. Actually, he started more than 50% of his games and played, what did he play? 12 years in the league. He was a decent NBA player. But he could have been a good NBA player. Someone like Darko Milicic played with Larry Brown and hated basketball after his rookie year and just stopped caring. Like, could he have been a good player? Probably. Because, again, when he was in Europe, people were saying people that were, like, good NBA players were saying he was the best 19-year-old they'd ever seen. Would he have been this, like absolutely transcendent player? Highly unlikely. But would Darko Milicic have been better had he been anywhere else? Yeah. But at the same time, if Giannis didn't have Jason Kidd, would he have become Giannis? Probably not. So certain coaches suit certain players. And that's one of the big problems with Jason Kidd, is that I'm not entirely sure how someone like a Kristaps Porzingis is going to react to that type of coaching. Like, in fairness to Porzingis, I think he's great. I don't think he's being used right in Dallas. But he's a diva. We know Porzingis is a diva. I don't know how he's going to react to Jason Kidd. I think Luka Doncic, I think he might take it well. I really do. I think Luka Doncic could look good with Jason Kidd. And I actually think Tim Hardaway Jr. I don't know why. I just think he's kind of wired that way as well. But we don't know about a lot of these players. Because again, Larry Sanders, he obviously is someone that couldn't have taken this style of coaching. Plenty of great NBA players do not benefit from this type of coaching. And it's not about being soft, it's not about being tough. It's just a different way of motivating. Like some people, some NBA players, and some just people in general get motivated more with kind of like positive reinforcement. They get motivated better when everything's positive. They play better in positive situations. Certain players will do their best when they're being screamed at the whole time. Certain players play their best when they have a chip on their shoulder. Other players, in fact, play their worst when they feel like they're under too much pressure, when they're being screamed at. And that's the thing, like, I'm seeing a lot of people tearing into Jason Kidd because of this, and I do believe, considering the fact that he went so hard on Larry Sanders that he retired, that he did not do a good job in Milwaukee. He did not do a good job with certain players. But that's just the way he is. For lack of a better word, the guy's an asshole. But he knows basketball. So it'll be interesting with how he does in Dallas. We don't know what the personnel are like in Dallas, what like the mentality of the players are. Jason Kidd, I reckon, could do a good job in somewhere like Miami with the quote heat culture. I reckon he could do a great job in Miami, but Eric Spoelstra is Eric Spoelstra. He's not going anytime soon. But I'm not sure how the Dallas Mavericks are going to react. I don't know how Luka reacts. If Luka Luka might react badly to some of this stuff with Jason Kidd. I can guarantee you stuff like this is going to keep happening, by the way. You can see stuff like making them come in the day after Christmas and like just making them run nonstop after a loss. And like, it says indication of what coaches used to think good coaching is, just egotistical meandering without any goal whatsoever. I mean, it worked for Giannis, didn't it? It made Giannis what Giannis is. It worked for Chris Middleton. It just didn't work for certain players. It's a different style of coaching. And I personally don't believe Jason Kidd's a spectacular coach, because he has his style of coaching and he has no ability to... It doesn't seem like he knows how to deal with people that will not react well to his style of coaching. Like, there are certain players you got to be hard on. There are certain players you got to coddle. That's the biggest thing for a coach, is knowing how to get the most out of your own players. And Jason Kidd clearly does not know that. He knows, this is what I want to do. I'm just going to do this and hope to God it works. And it will work for some players, won't work for others. So yeah, that's pretty much it, lads. So that's just my opinion of the situation. If you want to speak to Jason Kidd yourself, go to Dallas and go to every water park. But this is very interesting. It'll be very interesting to see how he does in Dallas. I honestly think he's either going to do a great job or be an absolute disaster, one or the other. So anyway, that's the video. Thank you guys for watching. Please like, comment, and subscribe.